Hi, Dr. Reagan Robertson, CCO of Productive Dentist Academy here, and I have a question for you. Are you finding it hard to get your team aligned to your vision, but you know you deserve growth just like everybody else? That's why we've created the PDA Productivity Workshop. For nearly 20 years, PDA workshops have helped dentists just like you align their teams, get control of scheduling, and create productive practices that they love walking into every day. Just imagine how you will feel when you know your schedule is productive, your systems are humming, and your team is aligned to your vision. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. We can help. Visit productivedentist.com/workshop. That's productivedentist.com/workshop to secure your seats now.
Well, there's like that saying, it's like first you go slow, then you go right, then you go fancy, right? So, I mean, it just takes time to build up. But it's so easy to do things fast and do things poorly, but it really takes time to slowly build up your skills and slowly build up that confidence.
Welcome to Investment Grade Practices Podcast, where we believe private practice dentists deserve to get the lifestyle today while building an asset for tomorrow. Join your host, Victoria Peterson, to design the practice of your dreams and secure your financial independence. Let's get started.
Today, I am so delighted to be with the founder of the NAC Dental Group, Dr. Nathan Kupperman from Tallahassee, Florida. Nathan, I'm gonna put you on the spot here and tell everyone that if dentists could be a car, like there's some that are Subarus, others that are Suburbans, you are the Ferrari of young dentists. And I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for the flattering words, Dr. Peterson. I appreciate that.
Oh, you better call me Victoria.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So tell us about NAC Dental Group. What is this?
NAC Dental Group. So it is a private organization that I started myself about 4 years ago. So we're a 5-location, private DSO located in the northwest of Florida. We currently have 9 providers working with our organization. So I'm really excited on the growth that we've seen over the time span of our development.
Wow, that's amazing. Now you graduated, am I getting this right, in 2015 from Nova?
You got it, Victoria.
All right, so that's 7 years. So you worked a little bit as an associate, and then you formed your own group. Is that right?
I was an associate for a few years. I contracted about a dozen offices thereafter. And then during that contracting period of time, I came across like 3 offices where it was a big opportunity and the doctor was retiring. So I was able to acquire 3. And then I had a 4th, and then I merged another office during COVID, and I bought a 5th during COVID. So that's kind of how things moved along.
Man, I love that strategy. I love that strategy.
A little bit of strategy, a little bit of luck, but I mean, I think once you can, after working at so many offices, I think it allowed me to be able to recognize the opportunity that was in front of me. I feel like if I had just worked at one office or something, I don't know if I would have necessarily jumped on. I think I would have been a little bit more scared. But when you see a home run, you see a home run.
Well, and you've trained your mind to see it. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today. We met you at Productivity Workshop in Dallas. Was it in September or February this year?
Yes.
And I'm so impressed with you, not only for your clinical skills and your clinical ethics, the way you treat people, all of that is so top shelf. But you have an investor's mindset. You're like a young Bruce Baird. If we could put Bruce back in a time capsule, he'd be Nathan Kupperman. So is it something you developed? Is it something you're born with? How is it that you, like you said, you could just see the home runs? You could see the value. You can see when it's a smart opportunity. How do you do that?
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to say, hats off to PDA. That workshop was incredible. You and Bruce did a great job. But coming back to the investor's mindset, that's definitely something that was not just, inherited. That was something that was built over time because oddly enough, when I was contracting at all these different offices, I was commuting a great deal. And I think you'll probably see that this is like a common subject, but I feel like when you're commuting and you have all this time, you start listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks. So I probably, listened to maybe like 50 something audiobooks on just business, on taxes, on forming corporations, on like loopholes of real estate, on just a lot of other worldly economic books, and then a lot of like psychology, leadership. So it just like the list goes on. And then obviously too, there's just podcasts like this, I'm just constantly tuning in and looking out for new podcasts that are coming out, looking for like the cutting edge material that's out there.
It sounds like you're a constant learner.
Constant. I mean, I feel like I get bored. I feel like I'm constantly, I want to be like re-inspired, reinvigorated, re-engaged constantly, weekly at least,
I love that. And you said that you have 5 locations and 9 doctors. So how do you identify or nurture or motivate that same type of learner's mindset with your associates?
I think that's really has to do with the onboarding process. I think that's a critical part. I think before anybody even steps foot in your office, I think that there has to be a cultural alignment that's there. I think that's really, really critical. So I think when I'm interviewing associates, I'm thinking about potentially hiring them, I'm definitely vetting them and seeing if they're going to culturally be a good fit, obviously if they're going to be ethical, and just to see if they're going to fit in with the other doctors. It's kind of funny too, because a lot of times when I bring a doctor up, it's like we kind of throw them in the lion's den. It'll be 5 of us that'll, go out and, grab some chicken wings and beers, and we'll just hang out and talk, and we'll just see, it's like, is this guy philosophically there, clinically, is he a good person? Is he outgoing? So I think that's been a really good thing that's worked out for us.
I love that. I worked for a dentist in Atlanta early in my career as a hygienist, and she let the team be in charge of hiring new team members, and always gave us her credit card, gave us a 2-hour lunch break when we had our final candidates. And she required that we go to a restaurant. Here was the requirements. You must be seated and they must have cloth napkins. So these were nice restaurants that we went to see how did the person interact with us, how comfortable were they in a high service environment, because this was a real high-end cosmetic practice, and more importantly, how did they treat the wait staff? And that would oftentimes,
I like that.
They would be great on paper. They had all the skills. And this one gal, I remember, she was like, "Oh, my napkin's dirty. I need a new one." Send them away. "Oh, I need a ketchup. Oh, the salt." And we're like, "Why didn't you ask for all these things at once?" And she goes, "You know what? I wait on people all day long. And when I'm out at a restaurant like this, I want somebody to wait on me hand and foot." So they're going to earn their tip. And we were like, "Hey, thanks for the heads up, baby." Next.
That is a great way to weed some people out. That's for sure.
Right. So I love that you make it a 3-dimensional process. It's not just a one-on-one interview or an office interview. I'm going to name that part of the episode, Chicken Wings and Beer, how to tell if you've got the right associate. That's awesome. You also have an ebook.
Yes. It's the title's "I Know That I Know Nothing." But it's a good kind of a starter book, I think, for like a new grad just graduating or a student still in dental school. So I kind of I share that ebook with people I'm going to potentially hire, and then the first sign is like if they read it, right? And the second sign is like just I get the feedback from them, and I see that they're kind of like in alignment, because I have a lot of psychology and leadership things that I kind of cover in that book. And I just want to see, what they think. I want their feedback, and I want them to kind of know who I am before they even meet me. So,
yeah. And why the title? What is inside this book? I know nothing.
It's just a philosophical quote, Aristotle. And it lets you know that, like when you graduate, it's like, you don't know what you don't know, essentially. And it's just a way of like disarming the new grad. So they come into the office and they're humble and they're open-minded and they're ready to learn. Because I think if they come in with that mindset, it's going to make it so much easier for the mentoring docs to elevate them so quickly. Because I feel like new grads, they come in, they want to use this instrument, that instrument, and they want to do things their way. and then they're not quite as productive. But then if they come in with an open mind, it's amazing how rapidly we can elevate them and get them just like fired up and really doing great dentistry quickly.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing how long it takes you to get an associate up to speed? And in terms of productivity, what does up to speed look like in your group?
So it kind of varies. I mean, there's some clinicians that are clinically gifted. You know, I've seen clinicians skyrocket within the first 3 to 4 months. And I've seen other clinicians that have they've lagged in the 8 to 9 month period. So I would think too, like you would want your doctors producing around at least a bare minimum 60 a month, but you know, you like to see them at that 80 to 100 a month production wise. So I feel like that's kind of the development. Another thing too is like their speed on procedures. So, you know, obviously new grad, it's going to take them 3 hours to do a molar endo. And then as they could progress, I mean, you can do a molar endo in 45 minutes to an hour. So those are kind of like clinical determinants. I think, yeah.
And how many hours are they working?
I really try to have my doctors only work a maximum of 4 days a week. In a sense, and I have part-time docs too that work, you know, 2 to 3 days a week. And it's funny too, because I feel like the part-time docs are the ones that have been with the organization for like 8 years, because they kind of have like that flexibility. But I feel like 4 days a week is maximum, because I just don't want to burn my docs out. I want them to have like that work-life balance. I think that's really, really critical.
That's so key. I mean, every time you speak, everything you bring up, it's just a nugget of culture, right?
It's all about culture, all about culture. I'm not trying to, create slavery and like be whipping people to work. That's just not my style. I just want everyone, I want people to come and show up to work and be excited to be there and be refreshed like every week they come in.
Well, I tell you what, I just did some quick math here, and a 4-day week, it on paper is like 128, 130 hours a month. But when you throw in holidays and vacation, it's about 114. So your associates are doing 526 to 877 an hour. That's more than twice, 3 times, 5 times the average associate. The average associate does what, 275, 300 an hour?
I think that's what they said in the course. Yeah.
So you are a Ferrari. But I bet it's not about speed. I heard you say it takes a while to get your speed up. Is it about speed? Is it about efficiency? Is it about precision so that you're not redoing your work? What's the combination there?
Well, there's like that saying, it's like first you go slow, then you go right, then you go fancy, right? So, I mean, it just takes time to build up. But it's so easy to do things fast and do things poorly, but it really takes time to slowly build up your skills and slowly build up that confidence. But I think one thing too that's really, really critical is kind of like the diagnostic aspect. It's tough for newer doctors to diagnose and do comprehensive treatment planning, because sometimes, you know, they have a hammer and everything looks like a nail. So sometimes you have to kind of back them up a little bit and say, look at the comprehensive full mouth picture. I'm like, there's a huge case here, and the patient wants this. Like, we can't focus on just like one cavity or one tooth that needs to be extracted. When you're more mouth doctors, we need to look at the entire picture. So I think from a diagnostic perspective, if you can give the doctor the diagnosis and he's confident in that, I feel like that's got to be like 60% of the battle, you know, clinically. Wow. So that's just kind of my thoughts.
You know what? You sound like such a great mentor.
And the thing is too, is like, I was a great mentor in the beginning. And I have another kind of like clinical officer that's with us. He's been with us for about 4 years now. And like, I mentored him, and then him and I together mentored another doctor. And then now like all of us are kind of mentoring at once. So that's how we're able to kind of expand our clinicians much more quickly, because it's like I have more of a support team now. We have our monthly doctor meetings. We have a good clinical WhatsApp group that we're constantly going over cases, you know, especially if you're in a situation or you have a question. I still pretty much on speed dial for my docs. You know, if they're in a clinical situation in the office, I'm picking up and I'm talking to them, or they're, you know, sending me panoramic x-rays almost for every day. We're going through cases. So I think that's a critical part. You know, that's a big part of group dentistry.
What I love about you is you are enthusiastic about some of the things that solo doctors dread.
What do you think? So what do you think solo doctors dread, Victoria?
Mentoring young doctors. Can't you just come in and do it? There's a mindset of solo doctors that really, when you break through it and you start thinking about an investment grade practice, if you don't get over yourself and you just want to do things your way, and I'm an old dog and I don't want somebody coming in here and interfering with it and all of that, sometimes you miss the mark and your practice becomes unsellable. I think that's why, the statistic of 95% of dentists can't retire and maintain their lifestyle is so real. And I love what an example of you're like, what do you mean you don't want to, we go grab chicken wings and beer and we talk cases and we got a WhatsApp. And it seems like you've got a system that makes it easy and enjoyable and not compliance driven or, this dread, I've got to talk to them about what's wrong. You've really created a culture of collaboration.
In the feedback loop, you have to have a feedback loop. It's like refining. It's like refinement. It's like autophagy. Your cells are constantly refining. Like your organization is constantly refining and improving and getting better. And it's obviously there's going to be painful phases, right? There's painful phases in dentistry, but it's like that pain you break through and then you become better. So
yeah. Well, what's the future of the NAC group?
My philosophy is I'm trying to grow deeper, not wider. I don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep. I want to be as deep as possible. So I'm just trying to get my systems in place and get, good management in place and have high quality doctors, high quality dentistry. Because it's kind of funny, like I was on a podcast actually with Howard Ferrari on dentistry and censored, and he just said like that's like your keys. Like you have to really have a solid base, your 5 practice group that you have. And he said once you're solid and you have all your systems, he's like then that's when you can be replicable. So if we can get to a point where we can replicate and expand more, that's great. But I'm going to do it responsibly. I'm not going to just buy up 1 million offices and try to exit and sell out. I just want to keep a maintained long-term legacy organization. Kind of like I would say I kind of want to be like the Publix of dentistry. I don't know if you're aware of Publix, but they're like a privately owned grocery store. And all the employees are always just so happy to work there. And they've just expanded responsibly over the years and they're just a great company. So that's kind of what my vision is.
That's so refreshing. It's so refreshing because you're in it for the right reasons. And it was such a joy spending time with you. And I'm like, I just want to spend more time with you.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it at the happy hour too. You said that you met some you were lecturing at some workshop and there was some kid in the audience and he was like, yeah, I just want to buy 3 practices, make them more valuable and then sell them.
I'm going to flip practices like you flip a house. Good luck.
It's not, you don't flip. It's like people, it's patients, it's staff, it's humans, it's not something you're just trading like Pokemon cards.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have in the early days, I don't see as much of it going on now. Maybe it's rampant and I just don't see it, but the concept of you could go in and paint the walls and upgrade the appliances and, double your money. I just don't see that. I think private equity's gotten pretty savvy. I think banks are asking better questions. And I just really admire your approach. And of course, we love those things that align, but you're building a lifestyle for today and an asset for tomorrow. And that's what I call investment grade. You're being conscious.
And I'm big too. I don't like to buy retail. I like to buy value add offices. So I want to buy offices that aren't offering all the services that it could be, or they're not doing the marketing, or they're not reaching their full potential. You don't want to buy an office at the full potential because that's very, very expensive. So.
Exactly. So you're representing the buyer persona of value add. There are other buyers that say, I don't care that you're doing 5 million and you're big and you're expensive because your cash flow is so great and I can optimize the cash flow. It really is. You represent a great buyer in the market. And I'm seeing responsibility in lots of different places, right? So that's so cool. All right. You have a new podcast out that focuses on this small group, privately held small group mindset. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Group Practice Mutual podcast?
Yeah. So the Group Practice Mutual podcast is just kind of an idea that I came up with. I noticed that there's a lot of podcasts out there that talk about, solo practicing. You have a PDA that kind of focuses on the solo provider, increasing their hourly production and things like that. There's also, a lot of like practice analytics, solo offices, by doing a startup, doing this. I feel like there's a million podcasts out there about that, but there really isn't a space right now where it's just like, smaller group owners that are going through like their growth phase, or they're, at like that 3 to 4 location, or, this week I interviewed Peter Kelly. He's at 13 locations, but I'm trying to just build a network of small like group owners and kind of like, in a sense, like create a mastermind, almost like you had mentioned, but obviously, using the podcast to spread the word of like good systems and good strategies that like all of us are using. So
that's amazing. How do people find this podcast?
On Spotify, actually. So we're like in our baby phase, and I've just launched it on Spotify, because I feel like that's a pretty popular platform. So hopefully we'll be on Apple iTunes soon.
Oh, that's awesome. So look for Group Practice Mutual on Spotify. I feel so honored that we're on the ground floor of this.
Yeah. You're literally like launching it for me. This is like the first real exposure that this podcast has had. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. When you're a big guy, you got to remember me. All right. So if people want to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing, what's the best way for them to do that, Nathan?
info@nacdentalgroup.com. And I'm very responsive. So, whoever reaches out to me, I always respond. I just I love networking. I love meeting other professionals in the industry. So that's kind of what I'm really passionate about, because ultimately I just continue just to learn and expand my mindset and expand my vision.
I love it. So that's info at N as in Nancy, A as in Adam, K as in Kupperman. Info at nacdentalgroup.com. I love it. Nathan, you have been amazing to interview. I've taken literally, I hope I haven't been too loud here, but I've taken about 2 pages of notes on this podcast, and I can't wait to break it down for everyone.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, yeah, I'm glad that we could get this done today, because we've been talking about it for a little while. I know you were out in Idaho on vacation, so I'm glad you're back, and I'm glad we got this done.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Investment Grade Practices Podcast. If you find value in this episode, help us spread the word by passing it along to a dental friend, subscribe, and give us a like on iTunes or Spotify. Learn more about building your investment grade practice at productivedentist.com today.